this episode of My Cat's Tale, let's meet Freddie J Mercury.
They just saw me holding him and they asked me, "Are you going to take him home?" And I said yes. Everybody that's met him has said how he's just such a sweetheart. I think he's kind of milking his adorableness. He makes these very sad, pathetic meows.
Joining me now on My Cat's Tale, Glenn Fitzpatrick.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Glenn. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
It's really nice over here. The temperature's died down a little bit, which means the ground isn't so hot, which means cat paws are quite happy to go outside now.
Yeah, and that's always very important, keeping the cat happy.
Very much so. It's just that heat in the ground sometimes. No, we're going to stay inside, and who can blame them?
Mm-hmm.
We're here to talk about Freddie Mercury.
Yep.
The cat, not the person, although there's an obvious why Freddie Mercury.
Right. That wasn't his name at the shelter. His name at the shelter was Drax. I wasn't too happy with that, but I spent a few days trying to think of, what would be a good name for him, and just trying different names. My girlfriend at the time, she sent me a text late in the evening, after her bedtime, to say, "I think he should be Freddie Mercury." And I was like, yes, that's a perfect name for him. He's a silver kitty, so Mercury kind of fits with that. He's also very quick, and he likes to be underfoot. So again, Quicksilver, so that suits with the Mercury bit. And there's also just no stopping him. He's always getting into trouble. So just like the Queen song, yeah, there's no stopping me.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to break out into song, and that would give me so many music license fees I would have to pay. So let's not go there.
No.
What made him a Freddie Mercury then and not a Drax?
I don't know. I just kind of sad little kitty at the shelter. My previous cat was named Birdie, and I kind of liked having the E ending of the name. So I was just kind of thinking of something kind of similar. And so just by having him named Freddie, I'm like, okay, well, that's perfect. It's very easy to remember, but also it just kind of suited his personality.
Tell me about Bertie.
Yeah, so Bertie was my previous cat. I had him for several years. I guess I adopted him, was it around 2012 or 2014? I can't remember. But I had him for several years, and he was the best cat, and he was absolutely handsome, and he knew that he was handsome. And with him, when I adopted him, I grew up with cats, or I had my girlfriend at the time would have a cat, or my roommate would have a cat, and so I was always having cats adjacent. And then I had moved to my apartment on my own, and after being in my apartment by myself for a few years, I was like, you know what, I could really use a cat of my own. And so I emailed my landlady to make sure that would be okay. And she said, oh, there are so many animals that need homes. If you adopt one from the shelter, I'll waive your pet deposit. It's very important that you find one that needs a good home. And the local rescue league, they were having a match-a-thon where you would, they, I guess, aggregated pets from a whole bunch of local shelters, so you had a wide variety to choose from. And the thing that I also liked about the shelter at the time is they would do personality tests for the pets available for adoption. So you could go on their website and you could answer a survey about what kind of pet you're looking for. Are you looking for one to be a lap cat, or do you want your house to be like a carnival, or do you want something with a little bit more pep, things like that. And then they would say at the end, okay, well, you're looking for an orange personality or a purple personality cat. And then at the shelter, each of the screened pets had a different color index card on their cage. So you knew okay, this one has the personality that I'm looking for. So I went to the shelter and I found one, and Birdie was the first one that I had seen. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to get too fixated on him. Let me look at all the other pets. But the thing I liked about him was he was in his cage and he was still really watching people play with the other pets in the shelter, and he was very engaged. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, you're the one for me. I'm going to take you home. So I had him for several years, and again, like he was the best, most handsome cat. And then I guess late 2019, he just didn't start to look right. Like he was kind of looking a little bit under the weather, and I took him to the vet in early 2020, and he had kidney issues that really just kind of came up like all of a sudden. And he had other health issues like previously too, where he had cardiac issues. Like he had once been getting his teeth cleaned, and they had to sedate him for that, and he didn't react well to the sedation. So I was very concerned about him with the kidney issues, and it was just going to be I didn't have that much time left with him at that point. And so I took him home, like gave him some loving, and like he passed away peacefully at home. And soon after, I guess a few months afterwards, I wasn't quite sure yet if I wanted to get a new cat, because I still loved Birdie so much, and I was really like missing him. But I was also like, you know what, like I eventually want to get a new cat, but I'm going to get one when I'm ready and I can find one that speaks to me. So this was all just before the pandemic started. I had volunteered to help out with the election in DC. I had signed up to be a poll worker, so I went to like a introductory session. And afterwards, I was like, you know what? Like, as my reward for being civic-minded and like helping out in the community, I'm going to go to the shelter and I'm going to just go look. Which was also a mistake, because
that sounds dangerous.
You can't just look. Like, you're going to come home with something. But I was telling myself, I'm going to go to the shelter. I'm just going to look. I'm going to give myself permission to go home empty-handed. But I went to the shelter. I told the volunteer there, well, I'm looking for a new cat. And she said, well, here, how about Drax? And just kind of sat me in front of his cage. And he was so sad looking in his cage. And they opened up his cage, and he just crawled all over me and like wanted to purr and wanted to be held. And while I was getting to know him, there were, I think, 2 other groups of people that came in while I'm getting to meet him. And they said, yeah, we saw Drax on the website and we want to adopt him. So he was in high demand. And after like the second group came in, and they just saw me like holding him and petting him. And the volunteer said, I think he's already spoken for. And they asked me, are you going to take him home? And I said, yes. If he's going to be this in demand, I'm going to take him. So he knew that he wanted me to take him home that day. And I've been happy with him since.
There's never a definitive answer how long you have to leave it between cats, because the love for Birdie will still be there and will always be there. Right. But do you think there was some sort of maternal instinct that you didn't realize that just kicked in just underneath you to go, right, now's the time?
Maybe. I mean, because I always knew that, okay, like I wanted to get another cat like from a shelter, like I wanted to give it a good home. And after Birdie had passed, I got so many like nice messages of condolence from friends and strangers that had followed Birdie's Twitter, and could see, I guess, how well I took care of Birdie and how concerned I was for him and his health. And because I was always concerned having a cat. I was like, okay, like I don't want him to be in pain. Like I don't want him to be in discomfort. Like I always want the best for him. And I was always paranoid and terrified, I guess, of being away, like leaving him home alone, or like being away and having something happen to him and he'd be hurt or injured, and I wouldn't know about it until quite some time later. And so I was always very nervous about that. And so it was very comforting to me to be able to let Birdie pass like at home and give him a good send off. So after Birdie had passed and I adopted Freddie, like those same people that reached out to me with so many messages of condolence also were sending me messages of like happiness, like, oh, like Freddie, you don't know how lucky you're going to have it. Like, this person is a great person at taking care of cats. And like one of my friend Joey, like one of like his letter of condolence said basically that Birdie had won the cat lottery, because like he said, just think of how many pets and cats like never get a good home, or if they do, they get a home with somebody that doesn't take very good care of them. And he's like, Birdie had a good home, like he had a like food in his bowl, like like water in his fountain, like treats every day, and his own Twitter account, and he just hit the cat jackpot. So once I adopted Freddie, again, like so many people were like, Freddie, like, you're in good hands, you're going to a good home.
What was that first week like? Because obviously you've lived with Bertie for so long, and now Freddie comes along. How did you settle back in with a new love?
I think it was pretty easy. Especially, I guess for that first week, we hadn't yet gone on lockdown with the pandemic yet. Like, I was going to the office again, like 5 days a week. So it was a little bit weird at first, because again, like, there's this new cat that I have at home that I want to play with and like spend time with. But again, like, I have like my usual routine that I need to keep up with. It was fun to see just how inquisitive Freddie was, just how he wanted to explore, like he wanted to like learn about his new surroundings. And of course I still had like a lot of Birdie's like toys and his cat tree and all that. So Freddie was like, oh, like, look at all this stuff, like I'm gonna go like climb to the top of this and see what's at the top of here, or just kind of seeing like how similar and how different he was from Birdie. So that lasted for about like a week or so, and then we went on lockdown and then had to stay at home. And then Freddie has basically like, I've been teleworking now this whole time, and so Freddie has now I guess become accustomed to me being at home like 90% of the day, or like almost all the time. It's great to have this companion around and be able to see again like what he does. And even now, like, he was just under a year old when I adopted him, and now he's just over 3. And he's still got a lot of the like the kitten energy, curiousness, and just he wants to explore. He wants to see what trouble he can get into.
He's an indoor cat?
Yes. I have taken him outside once or twice on a leash. And he tolerated it. I mean, he did enjoy it. I guess maybe the first time he got to like kind of explore my parents' backyard and kind of like be like, oh, like, look, this jungle that I can go explore. But I remember when I first put that harness on him, he just acted like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. Like, he just kind of lay down completely on the floor, like on his belly with his paws outstretched, and just like woe is me. Like, what is this? What is this thing holding me down? He didn't even want to get up and stand and walk around with the harness on. Like, he army crawled to his food bowl and then just kind of laid on the floor with his head in the food bowl eating his kibble. And so he was not very pleased with it. And I haven't really tried taking him outside on a leash since then, and partially because I guess the harness that I used at that time might actually be too small for him now, because again, he was just really a kitten and much smaller when I first tried that. Yeah, he's otherwise fully indoors. I do take him to my parents quite frequently. My sister has a cat named Wrangler, and Wrangler and Birdie, they were good friends. And the first time I took Freddie over after Birdie had passed, Wrangler went up to his carrier to greet his buddy, and he saw this strange cat like in the carrier, and he freaked out and he hissed at Freddie and was not very happy. Since then, like, he's gotten quite used to Freddie. They're really good friends, and now like Wrangler almost like he just needs to hear my car pull up and see me come in with the carrier, and he comes running in and like sticking his head in the carrier to greet Freddie. And he likes being I guess Wrangler and Birdie, they were more like cousins. And with Wrangler and Freddie, they're more like brothers. Wrangler likes to be the protective big brother. My parents, at the time, they also had a cat named Lily that they had rescued, like a coworker of my mom. Like, this cat needed a new home because of allergies. And Lily was definitely like a one cat only type of cat. Even if another cat got in her view, she was upset. And Freddie would take advantage of this and antagonize Lily as much as he could. He would pop up and swat at her and attack her, and Lily again would hiss and swat and attack him back. Well, Wrangler, he didn't want that to happen to his best pal, Freddie, and so he would come into Freddie's defense whenever he would hear Lily growl and hiss at him. And he never did that like with Birdie. Again, like, Birdie was an older cat and Wrangler was the younger cat, but Wrangler, again, like, he likes being like the protective big brother and is always very excited to see when Freddie comes over. So yeah, so he is just like an indoor cat, but he goes to my parents' place and they have a sunroom where they like to sit and watch the birds and spend time in that little enclosed space, but they get to see nature.
I'm intrigued by the idea of taking a cat to your parents, because it's not something that immediately springs to my mind when I go to see my parents. Let's bring the cats with us. Is that an American thing that I'm just not aware of?
I don't know if it's an American thing, but also during the pandemic, it was also a place where I could go, where I could have some way of being outdoors. Like, they've got a yard, they're out in the suburbs. I'm here in the city, like in a one-bedroom condo that has no outdoor access. And so, like, I would go there to visit with my family and like spend time with them, but also it gives like Freddie, and it gave Birdie like a chance for a different venue, like a different environment to explore. And my family, they also just love it when Freddie comes on over. They see me pull up and like, oh, hey, Freddie, like, how are you doing, Freddie? And, oh, hi, Glenn. Like, Glenn's here too. Oh, I guess.
When you open the cat basket to go on the travels, is Freddie ready to go? Is it the sort of thing that he's like, yep, let me into the basket, let's go? Or
he doesn't necessarily walk straight on it. He might need a little bit of coaxing, but he's not terrified of the carrier, and that's also probably a good thing. Like, he's only, I guess, really been to the vet just a handful of times for his like annual checkup, so he hasn't like had a traumatic experience going into his carrier. Like, going into his carrier, it's always a fun thing. He's going to go someplace where like he's going to enjoy it. So I just really like pick him up and kind of just like place him in front of the open carrier, and then like he'll just start like walking in. Like, I might just need to kind of like coax him slightly and like make sure his tail doesn't get squished or anything like that. But he doesn't put up a fuss or anything like that. Birdie, he would sometimes see the carrier and he would go and hide. He would go underneath my bed, and I would kind of have to spring it on him like unawares to take him over to my parents' place. But also too, it was also, I didn't necessarily want the cat to be like, I might go home to my parents for a few days, and I didn't want to have a cat just sitting at home like by himself. But sometimes, again, like with Birdie not wanting to go in the carrier, I was like, okay, well, like, you're lost. You get to stay home, have some alone time, I guess.
So when Freddie gets to your parents, are you quite happy to let him outside? Because, you know, he's in an apartment and he's outside. It's a huge change in environment. And, you know, most of the time he's indoors.
Yeah, well, the only time he's been outside has been like with his harness. So I was always there, like walking him around, like supervising him. They have like a fully enclosed sunroom.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so with that, like it's like a place where they can like store some patio furniture. Like it's fully enclosed. Like, it's got a roof, like 4 walls and all that. But it's got plenty of windows, so they can sit there and like look right in a tree and look at the birds, and kind of we can open up the windows too, so they can get some fresh air, like coming in there.
They're never going outside.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Safe in the knowledge that they're not going to get near these flappy things in the trees, and I wonder if it will be friends with me.
Right, exactly. He'll see birds sitting, like he'll be sitting in my window here, and he'll see a bird like perch on the building opposite, and he'll just make like sad, pitiful meows at it, just like I want you to be my friend, like meow, meow.
How would you describe Freddie now? Oh, he's 3 years old now?
Yeah, just over 3. Yeah, he just turned 3. I think April, June. I can't remember. But yeah, he just turned 3. And again, he's still got plenty of kitten energy. He still likes, again, like getting into trouble. I don't know if he knows that he's famous, but he knows that he can work his cuteness. Like everybody that's met him has said like how he's just such a sweetheart. And he is very cuddly. Birdie never really was much of a lap cat. Birdie would curl up alongside me. Freddie, he'll sit on my lap. Like I'll sit on the couch and he'll curl up on my torso. That's his favorite place to be. And it'll just kind of pin me to the couch. Like I'll be stuck there for the evening. So Freddie, he is very affectionate. And he's been like that since day one.
Are you and Freddie equals?
No. I would say that he lets me know that he is in charge. He has ways, again, like of kind of working his cuteness. He's not very vocal. He doesn't really meow so much as whine, I guess. And so like he won't just walk around like look at me and be like meow meow meow. Like he'll look at me and he'll just be like meow meow. It'll be a very sad, pathetic meow, and just kind of like please, like I want you to do this for me. And again, I think he's kind of milking his adorableness for what he knows he can get. And it's like please, like I want you to do this for me. Like I want you to give me a treat. Like I want you to open up the window. He makes these very sad, pathetic meows.
So what you're actually saying, Glenn, is you're under the claw.
Exactly. Yep. I just can't resist it. Like I'm just like, oh, he's unhappy. Like what can I do to make him feel better?
And to be fair, who can blame you? Because he looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yep. And he's got fans. He's got a fan club. I actually have received unsolicited snail mail from somebody who I not a close friend with. Like somebody saw like his Twitter account and they loved him so much that they actually wrote him a fan letter and sent that to him along with pictures of their cats, just because they love Freddie so much.
Well, we can all share in some of the adventures of Freddie over, is it Freddie J Cat at Twitter?
Yes. Yep. Freddie J Cat.
Okay. And thank you, Glenn, also for sharing his story and Bertie's story as well with us here on the podcast. It's been a delight to hear about the adventures and the travelling in the car, and now I've got a new thing that I know my cats will never do either, because no, we're not doing that. No, we're not.
And he's very well behaved too. Like he doesn't put up a fuss in the car. He just curls up and goes to sleep in his carrier.
Because he probably knows he's getting extra treats when he gets to your parents. Yep, under the claw all round. Glenn, once more, thanks very much for your time here on My Cat's Tale.
Great, thank you.
You've been listening to My Cat's Tale, a Spence Media production. Listen to more tales of our perfect pets at mycatstalepod.com and support us on Patreon.